masters of speed. This is Formula One.
Welcome to Spain. Spain, F2, let's go. So I'm back driving as Teo Porche. You should know the drill by now. 5 red lights. What seemed to take an eternity to get off the line then. But yeah, again another awesome superstar. You can really have great starts against the AI. Obviously the setup is a lot different to the Monaco setup, absolutely crazily different. Understeer is going to be a mainstay of these F2 car setups, and unfortunately it's just something we're going to have to live with because it is bad. Obviously it's not circuit specific. There are some circuits that it's really bad at, and then some circuits that it's not so bad at. But for an example, you couldn't take that corner flat because it just understeers wide. Same with the last corner as well. If you ain't too careful going for this corner, again you'll understeer to the right. This corner it wants to go understeer to the left. You just need to manage your throttle inputs and obviously know when to pick and choose your battles. As I understeered right and got a track limit warning. But 29.0, obviously opening lap, it's not too bad. And just really picking up steam. Obviously you need to be careful going into turn 1, 2, 3. That goes without saying. Spain is very tricky at the best of times, but obviously with the understeer of these cars it's just multiplied. But nevertheless, like I said, I've had a lot of fun creating these setups. Even with all the understeer, it still is fun to drive. And don't let that put you off. As always, the setup will be at the end, and make sure you change it. I know the setup would work absolutely fine if you just bolted it on and ran with it, but in order to get the most out of the setup, don't be afraid to make your own changes and then try it. That's how we learn. That's how you learn to do setups and whatnot. But the understeer is unreal. Obviously I don't know if they understeer.
The fastest lap of the race. Keep this up. Well done.
Cheers, Matt. I don't know if they understeer this bad in real life. I don't think they do. And obviously I know that the F1 game isn't an actual depiction of real life. It's getting better, obviously, with all the data that they keep pumping into the game for engines and aero and whatnot. But I can't imagine these F2 cars being like this in real life, simply because in some circuits, Bahrain for an example, they seem really undrivable, although that could have been and probably was a massive skill issue from myself. But yeah, obviously you need to take it easy through here, turn 10. If you get too leery on the loud pedal, you will definitely spin out, unless obviously you're on traction control, and then you've not got to worry. But the only assist I use is line only. I'm going to fully commit in 24's game to getting off it and just going fully no assists. But absolutely had a blast doing these so far, and the one that really twisted my melon was Bahrain. It was such a weird circuit to try and get the setup right, try and get rid of the understeer, but I think we got there in the end. As I said, for setups, don't be afraid to ask questions in the comments below. I will absolutely 100% do my best to answer it, and if I cannot answer it with words, sometimes people are visual learners, will run through a scenario and explain it with how I would do it, or how I would approach it, and answer it to the best of my ability, because obviously a lot of people are visual learners, and that's okay. Sometimes you can't actually articulate in words what you're trying to explain, what you're trying to mean, and that's okay. So on to lap 5 then.
Okay, mate, final lap. Keep your concentration and let's bring it home.
Averaged about a 26.7 every lap. That's not too bad at all. Obviously, I've said this before and I keep on saying it, I'm not the fastest driver in the world, and I don't claim to be, and I don't claim to be an expert either, but what I do know is a little about a little and not a lot about a lot, even though that's fantastic English. The little that I do know, I'm happy to share and happy to pass on, simply because remember how difficult it was when I first started, and I knew back then the only way I could progress and get better at the game was by learning my own setups, because nobody needs a TT setup, as yes, they'll be good for 2 or 3 laps, but then afterwards tyre wear, the tyre overheating. You have to remember that TT laps are only set up for 1 lap pace, and that is that. So coming to the end of lap 5 then, obviously set up next, do all that good stuff, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and yeah, I'll catch you for the next one. Take care.
It was a magnificent race and a drive right out of the top draw to take the win for ART today. And I have to wonder, Davide Valsecchi, just what set them apart from the competition here.
This race, this win, was about one thing and one thing only: consistency. Anyone can be quick for just 1 lap, but there's a difference between that and being quick every lap, over and over and over. If you can do that, if you can gain ground when your opponents make mistakes, but then not make mistakes on your own, you can just push and push.
ART, the French team who have been racing since the 90s in various forms of motorsport, are once again back on the winner's podium today after a brilliant display of driving skill. And now, Davide Valsecchi, let me ask you, who is your driver of the day?
Difficult call, but I'd like to say Theo Pourchaire. He's just so gifted at getting the most out of the tires, and he showed that today.
Well, what a weekend that has been. Please join us next time for another thrilling installment when Formula 2 returns.
So, Spain then. This is what we've gone with. Spain is a very tricky circuit in the F2 cars, as the understeer is very real. Understeer is going to be a mainstay, I think, throughout the entire series of F2 setups, but it is manageable, and yeah, it's something you're going to have to live with, really have to live with. But for Spain then, I've gone with 36 on the front and 31 on the rear. It seems to work really well. If you were struggling with the rear of the car though, you can always upgrade, add another 2 clicks onto the rear wing. I found that this worked really well for me. On the transmission then, again, I've gone with 80 on, 20 off. You can go 60-40 if you like, but I found again that 80-20 works well. For a base setup, it's absolutely fine. Remember though, again, and I'll keep reiterating and keep repeating, that this setup will only work to your driving style if you change things to suit yourself rather than just bolting it on and running with it. It'll work absolutely fine, but for you to get the most out of the setup, you need to change it for yourself. On the suspension geometry then, I've gone with the front camber of minus 2.5, that's fully right. I've gone with a rear camber of 110, minus 110. I've gone with a front toe out of 0.02, and then I've gone with a rear toe in of 0.012. Again, it works really well. You can run right, left if you like. You should absolutely fine, but for the setup and for my type of driving, I found that this worked best for me. On the suspension then, I've gone with a full 41 on the front suspension. I've gone with a rear of 34. Obviously, it's much different to Monaco, much different. So it's much different setup, obviously. Onto the anti-roll bars then, you want a really stiff or firm front, so I've gone with 19 on the front and I've gone with 20 on the rear. Gone with a ride height then of a 34-37. Again, much like Monaco, I wouldn't recommend changing the ride height any lower, simply because there are curbs, major curb being turn 1, turn 2, if you get in on those, but obviously try and stay away from the curbs as much as possible, but I would not recommend going any lower than 34. Take the ride height, the rear ride height up if you like, but yeah, not the front. On the brakes then, and again this only applies to ABS off users. I've gone with 56% brake bias. You can run 55, 54 if you're crazy, but in order for me to stop locking the rear tyres, I run 56. On the tyres, I've gone with a 22.4 on the front and 20.4 on the rear, and that's it really. That's it, that's Spain. Welcome. Hope it helps, I really do. Do all that good stuff. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Any questions, any comments, let me know down below and I'll be happy to answer them. But until the next one, take care guys. Peace.